All right, hey, if you're watching this video, you are most likely interested in getting a property, more specifically like a Padsplit or a co-living property as a foreign national, whether you live in Slovenia or Portugal or Canada or Mexico. I'm gonna break down exactly, what's a foreign national, non-permanent resident, permanent resident, U.S. citizen, what kind of visas you have, does it help you, things like that. And then I'm gonna get down into the rules, what to expect, and then documents we'll be asking for. So that way, throughout this whole process, try not to have things catch you by surprise and just being prepared ahead of time. So, what determines if I'm a foreign national, non permanent resident, or permanent resident, or a US citizen? Just to put it out there, every lender and loan type is going to have their own definition and rules. Okay, there's a lot of lenders in the US that will not lend to a foreign national, they won't lend to a non permanent resident. They'll only lend to a permanent resident or a US citizen, right? And even those lenders, when they lend to a permanent resident, may not give them, the highest leverage. And in our case, we lend to all of the above, and it doesn't matter if you've ever stepped foot in the US or not. We can still provide you with a loan so long as you close in an LLC. Okay, in an LLC, you get an EIN number. With that EIN number, we're able to close using both your name and the LLC. So I kind of just explained that here. So what are the downsides, right? Some of the downsides is you're going to get hit with an increase in rate. So if normally we're at 7.875 on a rate right now, you're probably going to be closer to the 8.875 and higher. So that's just something to be aware of. Also, the LTV, where usually we might be able to go 20% down in this market. If rates ever drop, maybe 15% down. When you're a foreign national, the max LTV is 75%, so you'll have to be putting 25% down. Some of you might say, okay, Fernando, well, I have an H-1B visa or a TN visa, I have an ITIN, I have an SSN, I even have a credit score. And unfortunately, if you're still here on a visa, if you don't have a green card, and you have to read what your social security number card says, and if there's any words on your SSN card that say this is a working social security number, right, or this is a social security number that only to be used for like while you're working, there's got to be some text on the social security number card, then we still have to consider you a foreign national or non-permanent resident, which means you could still be hit with a rate hit, maybe not as high as 1, but maybe like 0.5%. Okay, you're also still going to have this limitation of going 25% down. So question, if I have a green card, am I good? Yes. So green card, we can classify you as a US citizen, so you'll be able to go 20% down. You also won't be affected by the rates. In Canada, even if you have a Canadian credit score, if it's not a US credit score and you don't have permanent residency in the US, then you're going to fall into the categories up above. We can still use your Canadian score to prove that you have decent credit from Canada, and we'll go down into the rules and qualifications, but it's not like we can use that score to give you the better rate in the US, unfortunately. So now I am speaking about one specific lender, and we use this lender to buy occupied, converted, operational pad splits, right, or co-living properties. We can use them to buy Airbnbs. They're a really good lender. They're really flexible, and so that's who we use. So what are some of the rules to be aware of? So your max LTV is going to be 75%, which means it's 25% down, and then you're going to have closing costs on top of that, and you're going to have reserves, 6 months reserves. Okay, we're going to get into that too. Now we're able to use. This is why it's so cool, though, right? We're not using your income in your country to qualify for the property. We're using the income of the property, whether it's the income as a pad split or it's an income as a long-term rental. We can use either one, and I'm kind of there to guide you and to help tell you in what instances does it make more sense to use pad split income or just use regular long-term market rents as a regular single-family home. When we sign, if you don't live near the border or you don't want to fly in, then we're going to have to sign at an embassy or a consulate with a U.S. notary to notarize the docs. Or what we've had people do is drive or fly into the U.S., so they avoid signing at the embassy, and then we just schedule a mobile notary, or we schedule like title, closing attorney, to meet you for a notary to meet you, so you can sign the documents within the U.S., which just makes the process a lot easier. You don't have to schedule a signing at the embassy. It's probably going to be less expensive too. I know signing at the embassy and consulate can be pretty expensive, and it can be a hassle in terms of scheduling. So all funds for down payment, closing costs, and reserves must be seasoned in your international account for 60 days. This is not a requirement for a U.S. citizen. It is a requirement for an international foreign national loan. They need 60 days. All of it needs to be in your international account, or it could be in a U.S. bank account too. But majority of the time when I'm working with foreign nationals, if they don't already have the money in a U.S. bank account, then it has to be seasoned in their offshore account, in their home country account for 60 days. Okay, what if you actually do have the bank account in the U.S.? Then it's only a 10-day seasoning period. We only require the down payment and closing funds to be seasoned for 10 days in the United States if you've been living in the United States, right? But if you've been living out of the United States, 60 days, okay? Then during closing, right when we're about to close, the money needs to be transferred into a U.S. bank account, and it needs to be seasoned for 3 days before closing. We'll be guiding you throughout this whole process and letting you know when to transfer funds and how much to transfer, all that stuff. Because you're also going to need to send over the 6 months reserves into the U.S. bank account, and all that needs to be 3 days before closing. So 6 months reserves, what does that mean? So 6 months of the PITIA, which is the principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and HOA dues. If you don't have HOA dues, then you don't worry about that. It will not be held in an escrow account. It'll just remain in your U.S. bank account at closing. The lender just needs to see it there so they have the reassurance that you could cover the mortgage payment for 6 months if you needed to. Because when we're buying properties, they don't need to be occupied. They could be vacant. And so if they're vacant, we need to know that you can make the payment for at least 6 months, and it's going to be set up in a U.S. bank account. If you don't have a credit score, we provide you a rate based on a 680 credit score. If you have a credit score, there's a small hit on rate for that, but that'll help you if you have a credit score in the U.S. I guess I'll make that known. If you don't have a U.S. Keep in mind, I know sometimes for LLCs, you can have power of attorneys, you can have corporate resolutions that have other people signing on your behalf. That doesn't work in this case for this type of loan. We can't have power of attorneys for the borrower, right? If you have two people on a loan, one of them is going to be the borrower. The borrower can't say like, hey, I'm just going to have my partner sign for me in the U.S. That's not going to work. We need the borrower to be the one to sign, right? Or if each partner has more than 25% ownership, then they're both going to have to sign a personal guarantee. So you can have multiple people in the LLC. Only one person is required to take on the loan. Keep in mind that the loan will report to your personal credit, which could be a good thing. You know, if you're coming to the U.S. and you want to start building credit, you want to start building a relationship with a lender who can give you better rates on the next loan, then this is going to be perfect, right? So your first one, you may have the higher rates, but once you go to get the second loan, you may now we may be able to make an exception to get you better rates because you have a credit history with the actual lender. So that'll be a good thing. Let's see. Again, you can close in your LLC. The loan will be in your name. You'll be signing a personal guarantee. That's anybody over 25%. Anyone over 25% ownership in the LLC will have to sign this. We can't fund nor disperse money after closing until lender has the original closing documents. So what does that mean? Closing is the day that you sign. So if you meet on a Thursday, you meet your notary, you get your documents, and you sign, those documents will most likely be scanned. They'll be sent over to the title company. They'll review them, just make sure everything's legit. And then the original documents will be mailed to the lender. Again, let's say it's a Thursday and you sign, but you're international, and it takes 4 days to get from wherever you are to the lender. So we closed on that Thursday, but we have to notify all parties that nobody's going to get their money, including myself, right? I get paid at closing. Sorry, I get paid at funding and disbursement. Nobody gets any money until the originals are sent to the lender, where the lender can review the documents themselves. Okay, and then so let's say that'll be 4 days, maybe Monday or Tuesday, they get the docs, then we can disperse. Usually it's my job, I notify all the parties that so that nobody's caught off guard in terms of like, hey, we closed yesterday, where's our money, da 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 da, right? We don't want those types of issues. They just cause us unnecessary stress. Some of the documents we ask for so that you're prepared ahead of time: passport of your country of origin, 2 months bank statements from the primary bank you'll be sending funds from, whether that's the US bank or it's your primary country's bank. Any citizenship docs to support your citizenship in the US, like your visas and all that, your green card. Or if you are a US citizen, then you're only providing your social security card or social security number. Maybe we won't even ask you for the card, and you'll need to provide your driver's license. Many times we ask for an explanation of primary residence. If you rent or own. If you own, we ask for a mortgage statement of the property where you live. And if you rent, more than likely we ask for a verification of rents, which just means we need to find out how you pay rent, who you pay rent to. And the fear is that the lenders think, hey, people are going to be buying these investment properties and using them for their own primary residence, their vacation homes, or whatever the situation is. So we ask for LLC docs, EIN letter, and operating agreement. If you don't have an operating agreement, let me know. I create those for free for my clients. So it's pretty straightforward. An original credit reference letter from an internationally known financial institution or international credit report. So this is what I mean, where if you have a credit report already in Canada, then you don't need to provide this. We can just take that. And that covers pretty much almost everything. Let me know if you have any other questions. Hopefully this was a good explanation of what to expect when buying a property, and specifically we're talking about like Padsplit or Airbnb. This is the one lender I use because they allow us to use Padsplit market rents or Airbnb market rents, right? They're very flexible, and they 25% down is still a decent amount. I mean, it's a good amount of leverage. There's 75% LTV to get a property for. It's not an insane amount of money down, where a lot of other lenders need 30% or 35% down to get into a property. They're only requiring 25% down. Okay, please reach back if any other questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to working with you. All right, have a good day.